Every parent's top concern right now is getting their kids back to a learning environment that is safe. So our 9 Health expert, Dr. Paul Coley, has been talking with us all this week about what parents need to know before their kids return to in-school learning. Today, Dr. Coley and I will be focusing on middle and high school children. We talked about the youngsters yesterday. So from your perspective, what is the biggest concern that middle and high school kids will face as far as health when it comes to in-person learning?
So Tom, I think the challenge for middle and high school kids is very different from the elementary school kids we talked about yesterday, where it's helping them to understand how to keep safe. For your middle and high schooler, the biggest challenge is really helping them to comply with the mask regulation, because for many reasons, middle and high school kids don't necessarily follow those recommendations. So one is that they tend to be more rebellious. So they're at an age where rebellion is part of their culture. And so it may be cool to not wear a mask or not follow the rules. The second is that their perceived sense of risk is low because, they've heard on social media and other outlets that they're less likely to get infected and less likely to get sick. And then the final is there have been a lot of mixed messages out there, including social media and other outlets, about masks offering protection. So I think the most important challenge is really going to be helping these middle and high schoolers to comply with the mask mandate, helping them to understand that once they cross the age of 10, their risk of spreading the infection is equivalent to that of adults, if not more. So the masks are not just to protect them, it's also to protect their family members and the rest of their community. And we saw in Georgia, when you make it optional to wear masks, kids are unlikely to do that.
Yeah, you talked about the science and the data and the mixed messages. So what are the real challenges? What does the data tell you about adolescents as they go back to school? What problems will they face?
So the biggest challenge with respect to adolescence, Tom, is really going to be the social difficulty. So socializing and socialization is such an important part of an adolescent's normal behavioral development. It's part of their educational process, and it's part of their social development as well. So it's really important for you to try to sit down and talk to your preteen or teen about some of the changes that are going to occur, and to try to talk to them about why they're occurring and how these changes are temporary. It's also really important for you to emphasize behaviors like hanging out in small groups with a select group of friends, these quarantine bubbles or COVID buddies, like we like to call it, rather than doing socializing the way that they did before. As a parent, it's also really important, Tom, to monitor your child's mental health regularly, because the data is suggesting that many kids are actually regressing. And the way that a teenager would regress would be to have more tantrums or act out more. And you may think it's part of a normal teenage behavior, but it could signify a deeper problem with their mental health. And then finally, it's really important to monitor for substance abuse, because we know that that's an epidemic amongst teens, things like vaping, marijuana use, alcohol use, smoking, and all of those tend to go up when a child, an adolescent, perceives loneliness or isolation from their friends.
Yeah, in normal times, it can be tough for parents to reach adolescents and stay in tune with them. But what can parents do in this unique time to try to minimize the risk to their teenagers?
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of parents, but I do think there are a few things that parents can do. So the first recommendation I have is to have daily check-ins with your teen. So it's really important to talk about how school is going, if there's anyone who came to school who might have been sick or anything that happened that made them feel uncomfortable. It's also a great opportunity during these check-ins to educate your child and your teen about respiratory droplets, about the spread of the virus, about good hand washing. The second piece of advice I have is to stock their backpacks, their cars, whatever it is that they're using, with lots and lots of hand sanitizer and wipes. And then you can check every week whether or not those are being used. That's a good way to know whether they're complying or not. The third is to establish routines that are going to help them stay hygienic. So as soon as they come home from school, have them wash their hands, wash their face, and change their clothes. And with those types of routines, you can reduce the risk of spread. And then finally, I would say reach out to the school to talk about activities, after-school activities like choir, debate, band practice, sports, many of the things that our preteens and adolescents are involved in, and try to understand what the school's plans are for making those safer.
There are so many questions for parents, students, teachers, and the like as we prepare to go back into school. We appreciate you talking about adolescence with us today, Dr. Coley. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about college kids, the unique challenges they face as they return to school. So we'll see you then. Thanks, Dr. Coley.